here from Yosi Vapor. Today we are going to teach you guys how to build. Alright, so today guys we are going to build the iGo-W. Let me show you a little bit about the iGo-W. The iGo-W is a 3-post. You'll see that there's holes in the posts, and that's where we are going to slip the wires through as we start building. This is your cap. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna put it on the hammer. This is our mechanical mod. This is actually available for pre-order right now. You could check out our website, yosivapes.com, for the pre-orders. But enough of that, we are now gonna start building the iGo-W. So to start off, we're gonna need to open up those holes. We're gonna unscrew these right here. If you could zoom in real quick, you'll see that these holes open up. Cool. All right, now we are going to create a build. What you're gonna need to do is you're gonna have to grab yourself some silica and some eco wool. Today we're gonna be using the silica. Eco wool is just a different type of wicking material. These come in a 3 mil, a 2 mil, and I believe a 1 millimeter diameter. Silica comes in 1, 2, and 3 millimeter as well. But today we are gonna toss this out and we are gonna use silica. You're also gonna need some Kanthal wire, 28 gauge. They come in different gauges as well, 26, 28, 30, and 32. The lower the number, the thicker your wire is. 28 is usually a good, it'll give you a pretty good resistance throughout at the end of the build. So this is, we're gonna need about, I'm gonna pull some of this out. We're gonna need about, I tend to use a little more than a foot. I like working with more wire than usual, because it's always better to have more wire than too little and end up short. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut the ends off, make sure those are nice and straight. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do with this is we're gonna be building a dual coil. We're gonna start off by folding the silica. So I like to fold it twice. So essentially you're wrapping around 4 loops, four wicks, 4 strands of wick, and you're gonna have 2 loops right there. Keep in mind that the more loops you do, the more strands you'll end up having that squeeze together, the higher your resistance is gonna be. So I'm just gonna pinch that, just nice and pressed there. Now we're gonna grab our 28 gauge wire. So with wire, the thicker the wire, the less resistance you'll have. You don't want to go too low on the resistance, because the lower the resistance, the hotter the coil gets, and it's just, if your battery's not able to handle the resistance on it, it could heat up and cause some problems. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and wrap our wick. So this is our wick. I usually start up top and wrap around. Alright. So as I'm wrapping, I'm not trying to choke the wick. I'm just kind of letting it I guess you could say, I just wanted to make contact with the wick, but not, you know, choke it to where juice won't be able to flow through. So this is gonna be your first coil. The more wraps you do on the coil, the higher your resistance is gonna be. With mechanicals, you want to stay at a lower resistance because you're firing the voltage off of the battery. So to compensate for the lower voltage on the battery, you want to do less resistance. You want to go with the lower resistant build. So that's gonna be, I'm gonna do 3 wraps. So this is a 3 wrap. So you have 3 on one side and then 3 on the bottom side. Alright, so now I'm gonna cut a little bit of this off. And what I like to do is the top wire I use as my positive, and the bottom wire I use as my negative. On my iGo-W, you have 1 positive and 2 negative posts. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna slip the top wire onto the positive and the bottom wire on the negative. So negative goes in the negative, positive goes on the positive. Alright, slip that through. I kind of leave it on the outside base there because we're going to be slipping our other wire through, and you kind of want to be able to see it going through the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this. I leave a little bit off of there. We're going to do the same thing. Let's go ahead and fold this twice. Alright, pinch them together. I'm going to grab a little more wire. Cut that off. Alright. And again, start on the top and start our wrap. So while wrapping, you kind of want to have the spacing as mirrored as possible to your other coil. Having it too close or having it too wide changes the resistance of the build. The way you could think about it would be the less wire you use at the end of the build will give you a lower resistance. So more wraps equals higher resistance, less wraps obviously lower resistance, and yeah, that's about it. The closer they are, the lower resistance gets. The farther apart they are, the higher your resistance gets. Alright, so again, on the other side, top wire positive, bottom wire negative. So, down fire. So we're gonna slip that through. Make sure this is locked. Don't want to burn myself. Make sure you lock this. Safety tip number 1. Make sure you lock your mechanical. Alright, so just gonna go ahead and tell that it's locked. Alright, positive in the top wire in the positive, bottom wire in the negative. And you could zoom in. I go under the coil, and on the other side as well, I go under the coil. So you should see the other wire peek through there. Alright. There we go. Alright. Cool. So if you could see, my bottom leads are under the leads are under this coil, and my leads are on the other. That way it's just, in my opinion, it's just a lot easier to work that way. So now we're gonna grab some tweezers. We're gonna grab these wires, pull them through. Just push that, pull through. Just a little bit. Pull that through, pull and push. So I'm pulling the leads and pushing at the same time. And then on the other side, go ahead and do the same thing. try to get those coils as close as you can to the post. The farther away they are from the post, the higher your resistance gets as well. So you want to make sure that that's a little closer to the post. Alright, so once that's that, just go ahead and I like to push or pinch and screw it down. Now you don't want to screw this down all the way through because you end up cutting the wire. So once you feel a little pressure, you can go ahead and stop. So make sure you squeeze all of those. Alright, cool. And now with these leads, I tend to I usually pull up and out. That way it helps lock it in. And you want to stay away from the base because if these wires are touching the base, you'll see like a little, it'll start heating up this coil or this wire here. So up and out, away from the coil and the base. Same with here with this, up and out. Alright, and we are gonna test fire. So make sure you turn on your device, test fire real quick. Alright, so when test firing, you want to just pulse it first. Make sure, because you don't want to end up having these, just to make sure that you don't have any of these leads touching the base. And just test, give it a quick pulse. Alright, so now we just want to make sure that that's all lighting up. And if it's all not lighting up, all you want to do is, what I tend to do is I straighten this out and straighten this out. Alright, test fire again, make sure the leads aren't touching the base. Alright, it's not lighting up. What you want to do, if you have one side harder than the other, it's only because that actual coil is closer to the post than it is with the to the other one. So if that's a little hotter, just go and pull this back a little bit. Alright, and then with coils, with the dual coil builds, you want to try to mirror them as much as you can. So whatever you do on one side, you want to make sure you do on the other side as well. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to test fire this. When you test fire, you want to pulse it first, just to make sure you don't have any shorts or hot spots or anything. Alright, so pulse. Make sure everything's lighting up. So what you want to start looking out for would be coils that aren't firing. So for example, this side is firing a little hotter, or this side is firing a little hotter than this side is. Pulling back on the actual coil will even out the resistance on there. That way you get an even flow. Alright, so now you just want to make sure that the spacing is all identical on the other side. Just make sure they're spaced out evenly. Make sure that this is pulling as well. Alright. This side doesn't look like to be firing. I might want to pull this out a little bit. Tighten it. Sometimes the contacts, the wire doesn't make enough contact to the screw. Alright, test it again. There we go. Alright, so all you want to see pretty much is both coils lighting up, all the wires lighting up, and that's about it. So that looks good. Go ahead and pull back. Alright, there you go. That's your dual coil. Now what we're gonna do is, here you go, space these out a little bit. Alright, perfect. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut these off with our trusty cutters, wire cutters. You could use nail clippers. I just like to use these because they're a lot easier to get under the coil with. So I cut that off. Cut this off. Cut that. And cut that. Alright, so now what we're gonna do with this extra strand here, I like to go around and tuck under the coil. Make sure you lock your device again. So around and under this coil. That way you have a little bit of silica to spill on. There we go. A little bit of silica to catch your over drip. And that way you have a well as well. Alright, so go under. Alright, with these, let's go and cut this off. Tuck this under. This off, and just so that you're able to put on the cap easier, I tend to cut this off right here. That way, cutting this also makes sure that you have juice flow through the coil. Alright, clean it up, pull it out. Test fire it one last time. Make sure it's firing. Make sure that's good. There we go. Alright. Oh, cut a little bit of this off. Alright, and there is your dual coil. Nice and glow. Perfect. Alright, there you go. Now all we have to do, juice, load it up with juice. What you want to do is you want to make sure that you saturate everything before you start vaping this. So once your wick starts to kind of look all clear and jelly looking, then you should be good. Once it starts turning white, that's when you know you're gonna need to re-drip. That just means your wick is getting dry. Alright, test fire again. There we go. Ooh, fireworks. Alright, so now with these caps, the stock air holes are really small. You're going to want to drill these out. The bigger you go on the air hole, the more vapor you'll end up producing, because you're getting more airflow inside the, you're aerating the coil a lot more that way. So what we're going to do real quick is we're going to drill this out and then come back. Okay, so I went ahead and drilled out the air hole on this. This is a 764 air hole. Like I said, the airier you're able to get on the draw, the more vapor you'll be able to produce. So yeah. Every time you pull out this cap, what you're gonna want to do is you're gonna want to line it or have it face the coil. That way you're aerating the coil as much as possible. So now we are gonna vape it. Alright. Put this on here. Make sure it's not locked. There we go. Hear it. And now, vape. Alright. Cool. Now it's vaping nice. This build, you could get like a good 10-15 drags off of it, and then yeah, that's about it. Alright guys, so that was the tutorial on how to build the 3-post iGo-W. If you like this video, have any questions, like, comment, subscribe, and till next time, Ross from Yosi Vapes, have a good day.